Hi, my name is Monica Walker, and I'm here today again with John Sweetnam of Conflict Evolution, and we're just continuing a conversation about this program that's new that he's created and what it's bringing to people, the change that it's bringing. So yeah, let's just continue with this conversation we've been having, John. You were talking before about gratitude and how that really helps us to connect with a space within ourselves that allows us to deal better with conflict in our lives. That, for me, was a very powerful tool. Can you give us any more?
Well, I think it's nice to have the clear underpinnings of what supports this very excellent 5-step process. I think it's kind of gives us a sense of how we can ground ourselves. So have you ever felt sometimes you've entered into a situation which you're not really grounded, you're not really present with yourself, and you know it?
Yes, absolutely.
What's that feel like?
For me, it kind of feels like I'm outside of myself. Maybe I'm overstimulated by things that are happening around me. I don't feel quite in my zone. I don't feel connected to who I am. I don't feel as confident.
So that's the kind of thing I was facing with clients when they were sharing with me that when they were in a conflict, maybe with a significant partner, maybe at work, and they got out of touch with their body. And they disconnected for self-preservation, if nothing else, or disconnected because it was too overwhelming, and they did feel, one person told me the energy drained right out the soles of her feet because it felt so grievous or so challenging that her energy just felt like she became like, I have no energy to deal with this, and actually vacated, abandoned, stepped back to the point where she would, I would say, shared with me in her own way, disconnected from, and conflict cannot be resolved when we're in that state of fear, that state of disconnect, that state of not being grounded in ourselves. And when I meet with clients and we revisit it, we're building trust and safety and rapport that we could actually enter into the conflict, into the discussion that she might have had if in fact they had had these tools, these simple tools that we're now offering. So I just work right through the same as if these principles were already working in their lives. And the next part of the principle is to, after finding a space of gratitude, finding a space within ourselves of gratitude, for whatever it is for you. If you had one thing at this moment you were grateful for, what would it be?
Feeling grateful for this beautiful spring day.
Beautiful spring day. And I'm grateful this morning that my daughter's home from being away 8 months. University being over, and so we all have something we're grateful for. And when we get that sense, what happens in you when you can really connect to the spring day?
I think when that happens to me, I feel a lot of optimism. I feel excitement. I feel a sort of a warmth come into my body. It brings me home to myself when I'm connecting with something I'm appreciating.
And that is it, coming home to ourselves. It's that simple. We set an intention to finding and exploring. I like to take my clients on a journey of 3 or 7 ways they're grateful. Depending on the intensity and where their level they're stuck at, I'll get at least 3, but often 7 areas that we're naturally grateful for. And then we set an intention. What is a good outcome? Before we go back to the fight, before we go back to the conflict, before we go back and engage, let us set an intention. What's an intention that allows for a state of mind? Because in our program we say people are generally doing the best they can at their level of awareness and the skills they have, generally. Some people have disagreed with me, mind you. They're not doing the best they can. but that's one of the intentions that we set, that generally that's what allows us to move through to a state of flow. From being stuck to flow is to make that statement. Generally, people are doing the best they can at their level of awareness. So as we set an intention, we're opening up the beginning door, window to awareness, to expanded awareness through intention. So it's not that we've arrived there yet. It's not that we're there. It's not that we have the answer. It's just opening a possibility, a hope, an inspiration, a faith that if we had a well-intentioned, thoughtful, considerate outcome as our goal, as an opportunity, as a possibility, it would actually help be manifested in our discussion, if that was our focus.
John, I've experienced that with you before in working with you. When we set an intention in a conflict evolution demo, for me, what I experienced was it was almost like I knew where we were going then. I knew what direction things were headed, and it took away the fear that I had that we wouldn't get there. And I suddenly felt a sort of sense of alignment with that. Can you talk about like what's actually happening there in the energy for people?
Well, I think you've nailed it when you said there's a sense of fear. And the fear goes back to when we were probably very small. We're not even aware how those beginning fears of being enough, being loved, being supported, doing things right. Have you ever been and go back to a moment in school where you knew Mrs. Johnson said you didn't do it right or you weren't enough? I mean, I grew up in a time when they actually still had the proverbial dunce chair mentality. You might have to go sit in a corner, and I know that's too antique today, but think about that we would go to a place of not being enough. That the fear drives us to a place of unworthiness. The fear drives us to a place of uncertainty. Fear drives us to a place of, what happens if I don't do it right? What happens if I'm not perfect? What happens if I take on or challenge in a little bit of a rumble, as we say, with my good friend, and it ends up where they don't like where I'm coming from. I'm not lovable. I'm not liked. So it triggers fears to which we haven't even found the inner deep meaning of where it comes from. It's already in our body. And it's very, when I work with clients at the deep structure, I can go back and find that in a child of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 12 when they took on that fear. And that's the number one challenge that stops us from feeling safe to go into the conflict and stay there, hang out. Hang out like you do at a coffee shop and explore. Hang out and have another cup of tea and not get too quick into strategies. Don't get too quick into what I did when I started relationship coaching and finding a better strategy. Because I got very good at strategies, and it seems like one-upmanship. It doesn't feel aligned, congruent. It doesn't support flow, because it does perhaps tend to give one person over the other a sense of power. And I think you and I will notice in the last few years we moved to a more collaborative way, more co-creative way, a more way of partnership. In fact, I've had a number of relationship partners come in and say, what I want in a relationship, because many have vacated a relationship, I want a partner. They didn't say a lover. They didn't say this or that. They said, I want a partner, an engaged partner. And I think that kind of sums up the need for us to have a safe place to rumble and play and to go into conflict, to hang out there. Just as if you're going to have Starbucks coffee or in a coffee shop and have a muffin, that you can hang out there in the process long enough for a greater possibility to evolve.
Thank you, John. That's really great. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.